That heifer right there just don't even care.
Save yourself now.
Look, folks, hope everybody's having a fine evening this Sunday evening. Y'all bear with me just a second. I was on the line with a feller and I'm a little bit behind on getting this computer crunked or cranked, depending on where you're from. But yeah, we go. Let me turn that on. Okay, got my buttons right now. But like I say, hope everybody's having a good evening. All you mamas out there, hope y'all having a blessed one. DC, I appreciate that, brother. But I was looking in the mirror a while ago and I was like, this thing has got my face looking like I've been hit by some honeybees up in the noggin a few times. It's getting time to mow it on down a little bit. But I appreciate the gentleman's comment there. It's getting that time of the year where it's pretty well mow it on down. I told Hannah not too long ago, I said, I'm liable to mow this stuff on down to a goatee again. We'll see how it goes. But let me jump in here and holler at some of y'all real quick. We got a good little crowd considering. Figured a lot of folks would be visiting, which I imagine many of y'all are, but appreciate everybody that's here this evening, that's for sure. See Miss Demaree, she got first there. Racing with a close second. Hallelujah B Farm. John Lawler, good to see you there. Keith Spillman, Mr. Mike Tangway. Pencil Tucky Bees, good to see you. Stone River, good to see y'all there, brother. Who else am I missing here? Lee, good to see you, Captain. That's who I was talking to a minute ago in the back room there. I was trying to get the rough edges to lay down a little bit on something. So Lee's gonna help out for a few minutes. Deb, somebody, good to see you. Mr. Rodney Middleton is just killing it on the swarms again this year. Mr. Mike Conley, good to see you, Captain. Mr. Dan Weaver, DC. Who else? I don't miss any of y'all. Brian and Miss Kathy. There's old Bob Walker. Good to see you too there, Bob. Russell Amos. Get back up here and make sure I didn't bounce over anybody. Who else? I got you. Mr. Roy Dennis. We got a good crowd. Mr. Roy. Yeah, all right, my bad. Got Mr. Roy there. But good to see everybody. Good to see the chat rolling along pretty good too, because I'm going to need y'all's help this evening. Whether we get into beekeeping or whatever we get into tonight, it may just end up being a fellowship evening. Who knows? But let's see on the bee situation real quick. Went down and kind of checked that swarm that we got last month. Like I said, we've been letting them go for a reason and not disturbing anybody. We have noticed quite the orientation flight down there with that little old bunch. And like many of us down here, well, many of us now, finally got some rain last few days. Buddy, has it come some gully washers around here. But those girls finally was able to get out and fly around yesterday evening some, and got a little break in the sun a while ago. And good orientation flight going on down there. So, but it didn't rain any today, so they was able to get out and do their business, if you will. But was happy to see a good number of orientation going on out there. No, no, DC. She's just resting this evening, bro. Appreciate you asking about her. She'll be back with us next week, Laura willing. But she's just trying to catch up. But we've had quite the last couple of weeks hard work and such. So she's just taking the night off tonight. Well, Mr. Mike Tangway, congratulations, brother. Got them a great grandson. Uh, that's great news, y'all. Wonderful to hear. Like, I got Clay down here, just kind of on my notes to remind about the prayer list, but we'll jump forward on that a buzz since you mentioned that. Uh, it's good to see some youngins to add to the family tree. So, congratulations, Mike Tangway and family, and Clay Bunner and family. Real quick, I'll just run through this before I get into the prayer list. But before we got off last Sunday, during Sunday fellowship, Clay was letting us know in the chat that they had to carry his daughter to the ER after complications of trying to have her baby at home. So they rushed Clay's daughter to the hospital, and thank the Lord, they got her there. The doctors worked out everything, and they ended up with a beautiful baby girl. So last time I talked to Clay the other day, he said, Mama's doing good, baby's doing good, and they should be, they're probably home by now. But if not, next day or two. I know Clay was saying them old grandbabies keeping him quite busy. Oh yeah, General Motors, my man. Yes, sir. But amen to that. Pennsylvania. Amen to that. What else? Where else? Oh, went down there and checked on them little girls, and I rolled that lid back, and guess what? It's beetle season already. They trying to get in and infiltrate, but y'all know what happened. They got the beetle vacuum, the original beetle vacuum 5000, you know, but got them dudes drawn up in that vacuum. Then them old chickens, they ain't had nothing to pull on in the last few days because all this rain, and they was happy to eat hive beetles today. So they got their little bellies full of hive beetles, and the colony is cleaned out of hive beetles. Oh yeah, that's it, DC. Just got to get down there, and already got my mix together, and we still got plenty of peppermint that Pastor Larry and Miss Jan sent to us last year. I think they sent us like a 7-pound bag or something along those lines. It was a pretty big bag of peppermint candies that they sent. But yes, sir, getting them on it. No, not at all. No, not at all, DC. That's right. Got to stay on it. We'll stay on it. I think the last time we checked them, which was about 2.5 weeks ago, as far as just all we done, cracked the lid. There was nothing on the inner cover or anywhere that we could see. But we are starting this colony out with that bottom board that Chris the Bug Man sent to us. That's got the tray in it and got the wire mesh where everything falls down into the tray. Started them girls out on that, and they had some. It wasn't enough for our kind of worry yet, but it was like, here we go already. And we ain't even hardly got kicking off good down here. But yes, sir, definitely gonna stay on top of things. And Mr. Russell Amon, God love him, give us a call. And we was talking to him, and I'll get into some updates on Miss Brenda during the prayer list. But talking with him, and he said, right on by, you get a chance one weekend, Tim, I've got some bees for y'all. So we're gonna try to make a weekend of it in the next weekend or so, and get over there and get a colony or two from him. He says he's doing good on swarms, and his yard's looking good for swarms. And he said, y'all just come on over here. I'll help y'all out a little bit. So we're gonna take him up on the offer there to just kind of help speed up the process over here, especially since there ain't been much swarming yet. But yeah, well, when we first got them in DC, we went on and hit them with some fresh eucalyptus and peppermint extract, loaded them down with some peppermints, and then we waited, I think it was about 2.5, 3 weeks, and we hit them again, and that was that 2-week period, this last run that we, I guess, inspected or just cracked a lid to see what's going on. And today was the first time that we've been in them since we've had our rain the last 3 or 4 days. And so most definitely we're taking the day off tomorrow. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing, is getting those girls loaded up and keep that peppermint smell in there. But absolutely. Let me rummage through here, see what y'all got in these comments right fast. Philip having a good year too. I know I keep heckling him about setting them swarms up, like that one gal. Y'all know who I'm talking about that sets them swarms up over in Texas. I know I've been aggravating Philip about doing the same over there, but I'm glad to see that man having a good season. Many of you too as well. Rodney, we know Rodney's going to kill it every year up there. Keith Spillman's having a great season. Seeing that Sarah's Happy Hives is getting on some. Seen a piece of some videos that the seasons are starting, I guess, not as well as some of us were hoping, but especially some of us down here along the coast, if you will. Really hoping this rain that just come in here is going to be at least a bit of a ticket to get things going. And it's just hit me. I did not write this in my note before I forget. Many of my Yankee friends that we got up, y'all up there in the North Country, not all of you, I owe some of y'all an apology. And I did not realize this until the other day. I flipped on that book of faces, and I seen a comment, Hannah done beat y'all to it in there. But I'm not going to say the SNOW word, none tonight. So if that happens, it's not my fault this time. I'll take blame the last 2 times that I said the word. It's getting as bad as the M word here. But yeah, DC, the book of faces. But I seen that they said Buttons is to blame. He's the one that said the word, and this is why it is doing that up there in the North Country. So to our Yankee family, we love y'all, and I'm not going to speak of it tonight. So hopefully y'all get melted and spring a hat. But who else we got here? Barnhill, good to see y'all in here. Bundy, Mr. Clay, you got on in here. Good to see you, Captain. Congratulations. I don't know if you was here a minute ago, but congratulations on that grand, baby. No, DC. The y'all ain't fixed to pull me into it that way if it happens. It's the white stuff that comes from the rain down to the ground and accumulates. It only happens down here once every 35 years. Ask Mr. Russell Koopman. They found out about that when they come down from the North Country up there. Just say Minnesotans are not Yankees, and I'm melted. Well, good deal, Minnesota Mike. I'm glad you're melting on down over there, or up yonder way. Listen, Mr. Dan Weaver, last frost was Thursday morning, Tim. Tomatoes can now get planted. Good deal, Captain. Because tomatoes are, folk down here's got them tomatoes going right now. They starting to look pretty good. Most plants are about, I'd say, a little over a foot and a half tall right now. Everybody I see. That's it. We do all bleed the same. Red, white, and blue. America. Where's Grayson at? That one was for you, bud. That S word, Mr. Russell Koopman saying, did last also for several days. It was weird. So hopefully y'all are done with that. I'm not going to speak of it. We'll just say that word. I'll let y'all blame me, Minnesota Mike, because I know if I keep reading these comments and y'all typing, it's melting or we're finally getting done with the stuff and this and that, I'm going to slip and it's going to, where it's going to go. If there'll be another Book of Faces post saying, Tim, it's your fault. I think Phil at 33 Mile Bees was one of the commenters in there, and Miss Demaree, I recall, the troublemakers out of the group. Y'all know them too out of the bunch. What else we got going on here? I tell you what, real quick, y'all, before I forget, we're gonna mosey through this prayer list, and I'm gonna try not to say it, but if there's anybody we need to add to or take away from, what I'm gonna do is just read the last page or so that Hannah got wrote down in here because she's got everything in her lined out how she does it. So I'm just going to read off these last couple pages real fast, then give y'all updates because we got several. We had some phone calls and text messages this week for folks. Showing up needing prayer, y'all. But we got Mr. Steve Amos with his father-in-law, PJ Hanley's Hives, and their family. Catherine, Miss Sarah and her family, Sarah's Happy Hives, Mr. Randy's mother-in-law, Tar Heel Beekeeping, Miss Janine Wood, which is Philip's mother-in-law's sister. Did I get that right, Philip? Kenneth and Chris Wilkinson, Cherry Bertaland, Miss Janet Redfish's wife, Miss Kimberly Smith and her family, Kenneth Allen, Miss Dolores, Denny Ray, Miss Brenda Keith Laramore's wife, James Creel, Steve O, Mr. Rodney Middleton, still got you down here with your unspoken. Miss Williams, which is some friends of Miss Kathy Baker, Brian and Baker's Bees. Mary Beth Hobbs, Philip's cousin, which she's dealing with some sickness. Stephanie Riley, Lee's cousin, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes, y'all. Dan Garrison's daughter. Our pastor, Brother Sammy, he had his testing the other day, so we'll know, Lord willing, nothing is malignant between his pancreas and I think at liver. They found some places. But Clay Bunner's daughter, just talked about that a few minutes ago, her having that young in there. Keith Larimore's cousin, and Miss Brenda. Mr. Russell Amon contacted us a couple days ago when we put the post out the other morning. And Miss Brenda Amon is having some issues with her legs cramping real bad. And he had to carry her to the ER. They told her to go to Hattiesburg for some further tests. They got back home, and I believe he said either yesterday or today he had to carry her back for pretty much the same problems in her legs. That she's just having some severe cramps in her legs, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with that. So keep Miss Brenda in your prayers, Mr. Russell, and then while they try to figure out what the docs can do to, Lord willing, remedy the pain that she's got going on in her legs. Going back to Clay real quick, congratulations on the grandbaby again. And he had a fella he knows that was having quadruple bypass. And Clay, if you got an update on him. But the biggest concern was the man's relationship with the Lord, whether good or bad as far as the outcome on his quadruple bypass. Of course, we want healing, but we want the relationship with the Lord as well for the ones that are open to accepting him. And being back and forth with Lee at Kodiak Farm and Bees, that just in case there's somebody new to the group that may not know of Lee, but I'm pretty sure folks, for the most part, know who Lee is. But as many of you know, his cousin Stephanie has been dealing with stomach cancer, and she was having her surgery this past Monday, believe it was, and they took out quite a bit of her stomach. They believe they got all the cancer out of her stomach, but they ended up having to take, I believe, around 80 to 90% of her stomach to get those areas gone. But thankfully, everything was concentrated into one area instead of it being all around. But yeah, I just want to make mention of this because Lee does so much for the beekeeping community, and we know that this isn't somebody just trying to ask for something. But Lee and his wife have set up a GoFundMe account to help his cousin Stephanie and their family to get by while they are trying to get through this season in life as she is on the road to recovery, Lord willing. But they did have to take her back to the hospital the day before yesterday and had to drain a bunch of stuff off her stomach, along with loading her up with antibiotics to knock down some fever that come along with some infection in her body. So as of yesterday, speaking with Lee, she was still in the hospital with fever. And what Lee was telling me, and many of you that live in the rural areas, especially if you're in the construction world, you can kind of relate that it can be quite difficult when the work runs out to find work in the construction field. And that's what Stephanie's husband does, is construction work. But right now, he's trying to take care of his woman and children and handle a house at the same time. So if there's anybody that can, Lee has got a link to the GoFundMe account to, if you feel led to donate, please do so. But we also understand that many folks are on a fixed income as well and ain't able to donate monetarily. Now, with that being said, as we had put in the post, prayer holds more weight than any dollar bill ever will. But at the same time, we got to have money to survive and eat and keep the lights on. And once again, Lee does so much for this community. I just wanted to kind of help, or we, Hannah and I, at Gunline Bees, wanted to kind of get this out as much as we can for Lee and his family. But for the ones of you that may not be able to, Gunline Bees, on behalf of the beekeeping community that comes in and supports us here each Sunday, and whenever we do put a video out, what we've done is we made a monetary donation on behalf of the beekeeping community here at Gunline Bees. So we didn't make it from Tim and Hannah. We made it for everybody that wants to help but may not be able to help. So your footprint is in here, ladies and gentlemen. Just let that be known. Whether others are able to go in and contribute or not, there is a footprint through the beekeeping community here. So we just want to encourage that in any way possible. And I think we got the link. Yeah, okay. The link's in the description there for anybody that's interested. But with all that being said, got through the prayer list. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody that may have put somebody in here as far as the prayer list, so I can remember to go back and look when we get done with this tomorrow morning, when it finally shows the live comments. Pardon me. Uh-oh. Leading Crawfish is working on me, Bubba. Lee called me up. Well, I sent him a message this morning asking Lee if he had an update on Stephanie, and he gave me the information that I just relayed to y'all there about them draining the fluid and all that. But Lee said, "Man, we gonna get on some crawfish today at the house." I said, that sounds mighty doggone good, because we talked about it yesterday, but we didn't get any. We ended up getting barbecue ribs, but we went today and we got us some crawfish for the day, and buddy, they was showing up good. So when we derail, I'm gonna tell y'all a secret about how they cooked them crawfish real good. Lee knows the secret, but here in a little bit I'll divulge that secret for anybody coming down here wanting to know. Especially some of you's gonna be visiting along the Gulf of America, and we hope to visit. We know we're going to visit with Earl next month, and there's a couple others that I believe is coming down, and we'll try to get with them as well when they get down here. But like I said, we'll talk about that when we fully derail on thing. But I'm going to open this chat up here in just a few minutes. Let y'all hit that link. I'm going to chit chat about whatever. If anybody comes in, see what's happening. If not, who knows where this thing's going to go. We just, like I said, we just made fellowship this evening. Ain't no telling. But anyhow, let me get this link in here right fast. Y'all bear with me. If I smash the wrong button, y'all know it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. All right, bear with me, y'all. All right. Annie Boo, if you're watching, I don't know if you are back there or not, but can you at least pin that for me, or Lee, if you still back there, can you pin that link for me? Then we'll see where, like I said, see where this takes us. But let me see what y'all yakking about. Oh, Mr. Dan Weaver said, I done worked over some crab cakes today. It is blue crab season. Yes, sir. That sounds good too now. You're right, DC. She ain't here to keep me in line. So, like I said, we're not saying the SNOW word or the M's. Everything else, we can talk about. We can talk about queens. We can talk about queen cells. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Swarm. What's your best swarm lure? Everybody's got a different one. Okay. I'll get her to pin it here in just a few minutes. She'll be moseying through here sometime, I imagine. But that's right, DC, and y'all better hold on for the ride, because we're going down a dirt road. Mr. Dan, when the screen goes black, we just know. Button hitting buttons. That's it. I think I'm getting better at some of this. I could just be lying to myself, which probably what's happening in all reality. That's why Hannah's here to keep me in line most parts, and Lee being the tech man, asking him, hey, look, can you mind whatever it is we need there, get a link up? And Lee, he knows that computer stuff. But let's see. Tallow's on the way around here. And I think Joey, Mr. Mike Berry, imagine Mr. Ed, Dirt Rooster, ones of y'all like that. Y'all are starting to see the tallow turn on. Mr. Russell Amon. Let me think about who else over here. Grayson, Bruce, ones like that. They ought to start to be seeing that tallow crank up here before too long. But we was up at the old place this past week, or last weekend, Mr. Dan Weaver, when they lied to us about the surrender thing, the reenactment. We went to moseying around, and whenever we was coming out of the back of the old place up there, there's several popcorn or tallow trees in the back field and alongside the old fence row that they were cranking up really good as far as putting their tassels out. So about the next week and a half, we ought to start seeing some kind of tallow flow really starting to turn on, especially after this rain. And I think we're supposed to be getting a little bit more sometime next week. And as long as we get this rain going on pretty good, and it'll hold off just a little bit whenever that flow starts turning on, where maybe we can get caught up on some things. Perhaps that'll encourage the swarms down here with that flow turning on, since privet was just a washout. It showed itself and burned up immediately after. And we'll just wait and see what happens. I'm not sure, DC. And thinking of that, for the ones of you that have been asking too, finally heard from Ed, son of one. He called us the other day, and he was going through a rough patch there. Many of you know, but got some really good news. He says he's kind of getting over that rough patch with everything with the departing of his daddy, and Ed done got on a good job. He's I'm not going to divulge the amount of money that the man is making each year now, but it's very encouraging for him and for any man to be able to get a job like that, especially bringing in that much money each year. So he's trying to work through this new job and trying to get back into the beekeeping scene as well. So Lord willing, we'll see him back at it before too long and on some of these chats once he gets all that leveled on out with his new job and everything. But great to hear Ed is getting on a good track. Yeah, I'm not sure on Mike there. Maybe we can find out for too long what's going on with him. I was figuring, I see y'all talking about temps in the mid 90s. That's going to be for y'all up there, Mr. Russell, in the 90s? Because I think one's over there in the Dakotas and maybe parts of Wyoming. I don't know if Jack and Denae's going to get any of it, but I seen that some of y'all is going to be getting on up just about 100 degrees or so up that way. That's a showing up temperature change dealing with the stuff that y'all was just dealing with. Then now here y'all go right on up into the 90s. So, oh wow, Mr. Russell, we were probably in the mid 70s today down here. That's crazy. Y'all got that much hotter than us, way on up yonder way. But now, I think it's Wednesday of this week on through. We'll be getting the 90s with the 80 to 90% humidity starting to roll on in for us, which has been nice with the low humidity, but we know it's coming down here as far as the high humidity and temps. So grateful for what we had. At least we've actually had a nice spring when it comes to temperature wise. Thank goodness. I'm surprised we've held out this long down here. Yes, sir, DC. 92 is hot. What's y'all's humidity up that way usually? If y'all run a temperature that high? DC, Mr. Russell Koopman. I'm just curious to see the humidity difference. Because one of you, for anybody that doesn't know, DC is in Washington State, and Mr. Russell Koopman is in Minnesota up there. Michigan, Minnesota, North Country. Yeah, they did. All right, DC says it's pretty humid up there too. Because I say our average humidity is easily 70, 80, 90. And as we get on in the summertime, it ain't no problem for it to be 100% humidity. All right, so we about the same, probably, DC. Okay. That's still wild, though, that y'all are getting on up in temps that high already. Mr. Russ Koopman, it's fairly dry temps. No rain in a month. Ooh, we know how that was. Like I said, we finally got some. I think Mr. Russell Amon said he got about 7 or so inches of rain the last few days, and we probably got pretty close to it because usually whatever they get over there in Louisiana, Mississippi, we pretty well get whatever right behind that. Well, I hope y'all get some kind of rain to kick y'all season off good. Sure don't want it end up like it down here. You know, you start turning on one of your flows, then there's no rain to encourage the plants to put off as they should. So, Lord willing, y'all get the rain y'all need so y'all can get on the season like old Keith Spillman got going on over there in the Carolinas. Let's see here. Make sure I ain't missed nobody in that box. Ringing the doorbell. 15. We wouldn't know what to do with no. I don't think. Me and Hannah had this conversation today. I don't think we've ever seen humidity below like maybe 40 to 50%, and that's about the lowest we've seen it down this way that I can recall. What's say, Mr. Mark Miller? Hope you Lord willing, you at the house and you ain't got them 18 wheels rolling, but same song, different verse. If you do, or if you are, hope you safe out there on that highway. Let's see. Minnesota Mike, Tim, so many trees around our lakes, marshes, and woods, but not for long this dry. Yeah, hopefully y'all get on the rain that y'all need, bro. Clay saying we just start getting on the flow here. Now it's going to rain for 3 days. That's about right. When things get rocking real good, something's going to come in and rattle its cage. But for the ones of you like Spillman, buddy, that weather has just worked out just right for them. I think I seen a post of his on the YouTube, may have been today or yesterday, but that joker done pulled another thing. Oh, Keith Spillman up there. That dude is just rocking and rolling this year. But I hope others are in the same boat there. Let's say redfish. Who else in here I may have missed? Did I holler at you, Matt? I hope I got your nod a while ago, but they're at Morris Homestead. Good to see you, bro. You too, redfish. How's Miss Brenda doing? Redfish. You're Miss Brenda. Uh, hey, you've had a fine year on that creek up there, Keith. Man said he's being modest. You know, oh, we just had a good year or having a good year. That dude is having a phenomenal year again this year. It ain't gonna be long. You're gonna have to get a trailer for Bertha drag them supers around, you keep at it. That be your next buy. I'm sorry, Miss Janet. I'm sorry, Redfish. All right, brother. We still got her on the prayer list there, or here too as well. And let me mention that. Thank y'all, everybody that's taking the time to pray for all our brothers and sisters. But he just about needs it, Mr. Russell. And my Keith is going to start storing his honey in barrels. That's what he just needs to go and start buying some. That way, when the actual flow hits up there, he can just start turning it over in drums instead of buckets. Well, I declare, Vincent Kalunga, good to see you, brother. And y'all, the man is genuinely all the way from Zimbabwe. Vincent is often chit-chatting back and forth with us through Messenger and things like that. And I know I think our time differs about 8 hours apart. But you up being this early or late, whichever one it is, it's good to see you. And Vincent does the beekeeping old school down there in Zimbabwe. They I believe he said they deal with a lot of Africanized colonies down there, and he keeps his bees in a log-like colony. Vincent, correct me if I'm wrong or help me out, but I believe they pull the bark off a certain tree, and they make a big bark-like colony, and that's how they are able to beekeep over there. But talking to him, he says the only time that he can go out and really check or do anything with his bees is at nighttime, dealing with those Africanized or fired up bunches down there. I think so. He'll be able to tell us, I guess, actually whatever the tree or the bark is. I'd hope, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And I'm going to say he's probably the only one in this chat that has to hang his colonies up in a tree to keep elephants off of them or away from them. Because he says if they can't put anything on the ground for sure, because they don't have any Langstroth or horizontal colonies like we do here in the States or abroad. And so they have to make their stuff homemade like the old days, our old days here. And he has to keep them things up in a tree because undoubtedly if the elephants come meandering through there, they have been known to push them down and knock them out of trees, but they have better luck putting them in a tree to keep the elephants off them things. You're right. I wouldn't. Beetles is bad enough, but beetles and elephants, I would just hang my hat up. Say, look, it's been fun, y'all, but that's a wrap. If the elephants come in knocking everything down, I'm done. And if y'all ever hear that here in South Alabama, y'all know I'm pulling somebody's leg if I talk about the elephants knocking some colonies down around here. What else was there? There's pretty interesting stuff. He is right there by Victoria or near Victoria Falls. I know that. And there, the land that he lives on with his family is pretty close to like a nature reserve as well, like some kind of safari get up that they have over that way. But it was pretty neat. He sent us a picture of all kind of critters they got over there that we don't have here. That's for sure. I don't know. Let me look on this thing, see if I got some of them pictures real quick. I don't know if I deleted any of them or not. Oh no, here we go. Y'all stand by. We're gonna show it. There we go. There's one of them there, and there's Vincent there with the with a new one he's made. But I believe the last time I spoke with him, that the government over there is telling them that they have to come up with new ways of making their colonies because they are no longer able to use that type of bark to make places for their bees. Uh-oh. Elephants knocking down key swarm traps. Hey, they could be running around out there with big feet. You never know up there in them Carolina woods. We still looking for big feet, so who's to say there ain't no, you could have Minnesota Mike's miniature elephants up there. Ain't no telling. But once again, that ain't a problem. I won't. I'm thankful for the little skunk that we have to deal with. I hate the hive beetle, the M's, wax moth. We really don't have much issue with, except for whenever we go to store and stuff. I don't think we've lost a colony to just actual wax moths. Uh, you're right. Anything is possible, redfish. That's it. Just. I'm with you, Minnesota Mike. So before I get myself in trouble, I agree. Who we got? Carl and his two bee brats out there. What's they called, Miss Haley? Caleb? How y'all this evening? And Mrs. Carl as well. Uh, what else? What else we got? Y'all better hit that button because I'm running out of things fast. If not, we're gonna go off this chat. That's pretty much what we've been doing. But like I said, we just waiting on nature and bees. We got excited early on, thinking things are gonna roll along pretty good. Gonna be one of those years. Got to worry about getting honey bound more than you do anything else. Then downhill it went. This has become beekeeping. We have found out. Don't expect nature to do what you think it's going to do in beekeeping because we have figured this out early on in our beekeeping adventure, if you will. Let's see, we got. Let me get my deal going here. Redfish, I figured y'all was kind of done with it up in the north part of the state a little bit. It's been riding the coast the last 3 or 4 days down here. I'm once again texting back and forth with Lee. We're carrying on one another. I asked him if he's, above water over there, and he's asking me about the same over here. We've been getting some sure enough rain, but we definitely need it down here. So I'm not going to make much fuss about it on our end. We went, say, just about a month before we had any rain from what we just got. And he said, Redfish said, no, got another week of rain every day. That's crazy. because I think our chances are lower down here on the coast, and you're in the north part of the state of Alabama up there. And our chances are going down the next few days. Then I think we'll get on back up in the latter part of the week. But we will be able to dry out for a day or two around here. Hey, them old goats will clean some of that land up. I see y'all in here yakking about goats and what have you. You want some free land clearing? Get you some goats. Nope, got storm coming in tomorrow. Well, brother, hopefully y'all get dried up for too long and y'all won't get in a bind on y'all end of things as far as a flow. But seeing all this brought me back to, I think it was about 3 years ago. Around this time of the year, we literally, it rained every single day for a month, every day. But when it finally dried out, it turned out to be one of those seasons of we were just plumb overwhelmed as far as being honey bound. It worked out just the right time, I guess, for the plants and everything to be carrying on, just enough rain, this and that, especially a month's worth. But I think that was our third year. We're going in our third season, and we're going into season number 6 this year. But years 2 and 3, we just had incredible season down here. And I guess that's why we was in hope of things being better, especially since we got that snow down here, a record we beat. I think they said from the 1800s. Carl, y'all, she's just taking it easy this evening. Kind of kicking back, and she said, "Look, I'm gonna let you run the show tonight. Be careful. Don't get yourself in no trouble. Watch which buttons you push, and don't forget the prayer list." So far, we've gotten through the prayer list. I have been cautious pushing buttons, and we'll see where the rest of the show takes us. Play saying the rain is good, but it's going to kill my tulip poplar plug. You know, to be honest with you, I hadn't even looked at the tulip poplar around here since about 3 weeks ago. And I need to see how those gals are doing, because if they doing any kind of blooming, they should be filling on out pretty good right about now or the next week or so. But in our area, we don't have a whole bunch of tulip poplar. We've got them, don't get us wrong, but it's nothing like some of y'all have. Like the way Spillman talks up there, that it's just all over the place. And I know for many others, it's the same way. But the tulip poplar is, I say, kind of low on the list as far as flow wise. We do get them, and it's grateful for what we get out of them, but we just don't see a whole bunch of them. Well, I heard that, Philip. Saying we, and by we, I mean Noah, had 8 of 10 queens emerge in the incubator. Good deal, Captain. Hopefully y'all can get them on. You're working on some splits, or you just gonna requeen? Mr. Dan, I can see what I got here. I think I had one saved not too long ago. I was gonna chit chat. Let me get in here. But that'll give us something to talk about, because I believe it was on everybody talking about Demaree, doing the Demaree method and all that. And I was going to get into, you know, who was Demaree and actually why he did what he did and how he come up with his configuration of doing the Demaree method. Uh oh, hold on. I think I found it, Mr. Dan. Now, with that being said, I'm gonna lose the chat a little bit, but uh, we'll get in here on it. Y'all bear with me. Let me flip through here real quick and find the article I had on him. If this is the one that saved, as it should have. Let's see. Yep, we got lucky. Awesome. All right, let me get rid of this a little bit, and then before I go to drowning too bad on TV. Mr. G.W. Demaree, or Demaree, however you calling it. It's probably going to be one of those propolis kind of names, but my keyboard warrior knows what we're talking about. This one was March 16th, 1893, volume 31, number 11, for anybody that wants to go back and read on this. It's in the American Bee Journal. And I just look all these up through the Cornell University website, and you can go in and type whatever you want as far as beekeeping. And if you want to know how they done things in old ways, old days, or I see lots of things oftentimes in some of these beekeeping chats of like how things are done nowadays, but it's kind of like it's a new idea. Then you go back and reading some of these old journals, and it's like people was doing this 200 and some change years ago. Ain't nothing new. But let me get in here to Mr. Demaree real quick. So, because I know many folks out there is trying this method, and I feel like it'd be a good thing to know who the guy is and understand what and why he was doing. But without further ado, Mr. G.W. Demaree, so far as we remember, we have never before seen either a biographical sketch or a portrait of Mr. G.W. Demaree of Christiansburg, Kentucky, in any publication. So we are afforded the pleasure of presenting for the first time to the readers of the Bee Journal the face and short life story of Mr. Demaree, who is also well known as one of the oldest contributors to our columns, both by his answers and inquiries every week and by occasional contribution, all of which show practical experience and an education mind. Mr. Demaree is of Huguenot stock. I probably butchered that. And was born in Henry County, Kentucky on January 27th, 1832. His father owned a large farm and in those days was considered well-to-do. The farming operations were carried on quite extensively, and young Demaree was brought up to do all work on the farm, and with his brothers was exceedingly fond of breaking and training a large number of fine horses they reared. In the old-fashioned yard was to be seen a long row of beehives perched on a platform of puncheons and protected from the sun and rain, and by a narrow shed erected over them. DC, this is where I was talking to you about, you're on to something, because this is what Demaree was doing back in the day, was putting his bees under some kind of shelter. Let's see. Protected from the sun and the rain by a narrow shed erected over them, Mr. Demaree was his father's main reliance for help with the bees. He was a natural mechanic and helped make the necessary beehives and honey caps, and later on made them without any help. Many of those box hives were nicely dressed and painted. At an early age, he developed a remarkable interest in insect life, especially in honeybees, and was never happier than when prying into the ways of bees and other insects. Amid all these busy scenes, his education was not neglected, and being an enthusiastic aspirant for knowledge, also as well as an intriguing, let me get back up here, intriguing student, he outstripped many of his age who had spent much more time in the schoolroom. When he reached manhood, he left home and went west, where he continued his studies, attending school and working at the mechanic's business. The year 1855, pardon me, the year 1855 found him then they got in quotation marks there, the wilds of upper Missouri and Kansas. In the past, he was published in the newspaper articles as a description of the wild bees he saw while on a trip to the New West. In 1856, he was again found on the old farm in his native state. The boys indulged their slang by declaring that calico was the attraction, and perhaps this was nearer the truth of the situation than they themselves believed, for in 1857 he was married to the woman of his choice and began life in earnest. Once on the farm of his own, he began his career as a beekeeper and began to invent new bee gums with much enthusiasm. Then followed the unhappy years of the war between the states, the terrible scenes he witnessed, the bending over the prostrate form of the cherished brother with a bullet hole through his body, men with shattered limbs, and dead men with their boots on will haunt his memory until he that sitteth upon the throne shall make all things new. This is something that Demaree had quoted. With the war over, Mr. Demaree left the farm and entered the practice of law, and from thence his life became an exceedingly busy one. He has held public trust in his county, Shelby County, for 25 years, 3 years of which he was chairman of the board of public charity of the county, and most difficult and delicate position owing to the increase of poverty by reason of the sudden emancipation of the colored people. During these years, Mr. Demaree has found time to manage an apiary of not less than 50 colonies, reared queens, and produced profitable crops of honey. In May and June, he can always be found in his apiary and is ready to talk bees with all visitors. In the past 2 years, he has been retired from the greater part of the business that has engaged his attention, and now enjoys more leisure and is happier than ever before. Mr. Demaree has been a member of the Presbyterian Church for 37 years and is an elder in his church. He is a firm believer in the premillennial advent of Christ, having given the subject much study, and now believes that the signs of the times warrant the brief that we are nearing the world's great crisis, which will culminate in the promised in the promise. And that's where it ended. That's what we got, Mr. Dan. Let me rummage through here, see if there's anything else on this one. May be interesting to y'all. Why we in it? Oh, we still got a good number in here. Appreciate y'all. Let's see. There's one article. I don't even know what this is about, but we'll see what it is. It's in the same deal. It says bees in a hive with crooked combs. I write to ask you if you would advise me to set an empty hive over a colony that has combs so crooked that I cannot handle them. I see that is it in the way of roots, ABC, in the ABC of bee culture says to do, and I ask what you think. And this is by somebody by the last name of Gardner. It doesn't have a name of who wrote back, just some initials, but J.A. wrote back, friendly Gardner, I would not think of setting an empty hive over one with their combs built crooked, as that is a very slow way and does not always prove satisfactory. Just take off one side of the hive, smoke the bees out of your way, cut out the combs, brushing all the bees, and adhere to the combs into new hive, and tack in the transferring. Only yours are in the frame hive already, and it is box hives. The directions are given for, but fasten your combs the same. I will add that it's best to leave out all drone, the boy bee, not drone, but D-R-O-N-E, drone. I know there's some folks that can't understand my southernness sometimes. But where was I at? Only yours are in the frame already, and there's box hives and directions are given for that. Fasten your combs the same. I will add it is best to leave out all drone, the boy bees, or place it in outside frames. This I forgot in my transfer directions. But all right, let me go back in here and see what these comments is going at real quick. What in the world? I had the wrong button on this computer. Let me get back in here. But I guess kind of while I'm going through that to review on some. Now there's more for the ones of you wanting to do the Demaree. There's way more articles in there of how and why and what he was doing to create the configuration that many of us are doing now. But so y'all have a general idea of who the man was, and this isn't just some kind of method that somebody just named. I reckon it's the best way what I'm trying to say. Get back up here. Cat without the hat, good to see you. Appreciate you dropping back by. Oh, y'all working on some more bourbon barrel up there, are you now, Carl? Let's see. Listening with much love, Cat without the hat. Catch you folks later. Mr. Randy, good to see you. Take care. Like Carl's saying, we've already seen numbers that are 40% higher per show. I like to repeat customer. That tells me we're on the right track. Well, that's good to know. Y'all are getting on them markets, and the markets are working out good for many of y'all. And if you ain't into them markets, we're definitely going to try to get into them, especially once we talk with Mr. Russell Koopman come down here. and he was just a wealth of information on so many different subjects. But whenever he got into doing the markets, that really drew my attention on some things, because don't get me wrong, seeing people in the chats like Brian and Carl and others that are doing the markets, it was kind of like, well, they're making a little bit at the market. But when Mr. Russell kind of started laying out, look, Tim, you need to try this way with runny honey. You need to try this with some cream honey. And you need to have, some different varieties and things like that out there once you start working these markets. And from what Mr. Russell was telling us, how they, or the profit that they made, let me just put it like that. And I'm not going to divulge your amount of numbers by any means, Mr. Russell, but when that man told us how well the markets were working for them and them bringing in a profit off their runny honey, the different flavors of cream honey, I was like, we got to get our tails into a market once we start getting back on the honey end or anything like that. I even talked to Hannah. I said, if nothing else, I said, shoot, we just white label some stuff until we get back on our feet here in the yard. Then we can quit doing any kind of white label and just, use what we have here at the house. But very encouraging. And perhaps maybe we could get Mr. Russell or something like that one evening. I'm not holding you to nothing at all, Captain, but to kind of have him discuss some of the things that he was telling us and how to make it work. So you're not going out there, because for the ones of you like Carl, if you don't mind, and Mr. Russell, if you're still in here, if you don't mind, some of the markets I think are well on up in there as far as what you have to pay to get in. So if you go in paying, we'll just say $100 to get into that market for the day or for the weekend, whatever it is, you're already $100 deep. So you're going to have to sell $100 worth of honey to get square with yourself. Then anything like that's going to be your profit from then on out. But like Brian's saying, the right market will get you top dollar for your honey. And it is a great community outreach. And absolutely, yes, sir, Brian, I agree 100%. Mr. Russell knows this stuff, because, y'all, we sat down probably an hour and a half in that restaurant. We ate. We talked bees. We got our food. We was talking bees, or he's, instructing me on the market situation. And then we sat there probably another good 20, 30 minutes after we got done eating. And he was still in conversation with me. And it worked out good, because it was Mr. Russell and Miss Koopman. And as Mr. Russell's feeding me information, Miss Koopman is feeding Hannah information. And on the way back to the house, that 2.5 hour ride we had back home, I'm telling Hannah this and that. And then all of a sudden she's telling me that, Miss Koopman was saying, look, hey, as far as packaging and getting everything put together and setting up and having things ready to go for the market, this is what we've done to help us, and this is how we've been able to really make things work in our area. So now for us, we would have to go to the big city to do a market, I believe, to really make the profit margin, possibly what Mr. Russell Koopman was talking about. But I imagine you probably still do pretty good in a smaller town or a smaller community for people that like to buy raw honey versus buying something off the shelf that you look at it and it come from Argentina and everywhere else, and you just got a mixture of you don't even know what it is. And getting back for a second on some of the old American Bee Journal, that's why they quit trading in the old days of bringing honey in from South Africa and Argentina, different places like that down there, whenever it was exported up here to the States. And I'm talking about the 1800s and to the turn of the century into the 19th century. And by the time the honey got from there to here, it was pretty well spoiled. So people got sick and tired of getting imported honey. And by the time it got here, it was sour because it had bees in it, it had larvae in it, and so on. Y'all can just take it where you want, as far as what all was in there with honeybees and what goes along with it. So a lot of people just said, look, don't even export it here anymore. And that's whenever you started to begin to see much more of beekeeping on a higher level, as far as within the new land, if you will. But that's it, Philip. You want to go to the wealthy suburb of the city. Go to the people that's got the money, because they got the money. And especially a lot of times they're like, oh, this is real honey. This isn't run through a processed machine or anything like that. When you tell them, well, no, it's the only thing that's happened is just been filtered through what are they, like 400 micron or something like that, 400 to 600 micron on what we usually use is a paint strainer that you can get from the paint store, which they're clean. But strain the honey through there, and that does a good job at collecting any product that you don't want in your honey. We'll just put it like that. Yeah, that'd be nice. Cat without hat. Find somebody that's selling it. Say, hey, look, if we can still make some money off this, you go do it and just bring me back to cut, and we'll go from there and do business. Yeah, I like to see Philip down there talking to them yuppie folks. He needs to film that one day. I want to see his marketing with them yuppies down there. Because if it was us, the best thing for us to do is let Hannah talk to the people, and I just tell them, say, here, look, here's the product. I'll help you load it up, whatever you want. Because by the time it's said and done and over with, I'd be done talk to the people for 30, 45 minutes, holding them up, this or that, into some kind of conversation about something. But that's a good thing too. Get them repeat customers. Talk to them, get friendly with them, get them coming on back. They'll come back, especially if you give them a good product that they like the taste of, whether it's cream honey or running honey. Then especially if you got, I think a lot of folks is kind of starting to transition a little bit over to glass. I believe we had this conversation a little bit last week. Of many others are saying, look, I can get a glass product for just as much as I can get plastic. And most of my customers prefer getting some out of this, glass product. Granted, I know you still got your customers out there that like to squeeze bottles and things like that, but undoubtedly, a lot of it, they like to see just, I'm going to say the yuppie crowd like to see that presentation of, being in the glass and a nice sticker on there. And don't get me wrong, Brian and Jen, hadn't y'all kind of transitioned over to like more clear labels? You can still see your design, but yet it's a clear label on your product. Oh yeah. Let them have a tasting spot too. That way you can tell them, say, well, this is what I got here. If you like it, or you want to try this one here, whichever flavor you got, especially if you got a spring and some leftover fall honey, because I know there's many folks out there that enjoy that fall flavor, that heavier, we'll say honey taste versus the sweetness. Many folks enjoy the variety, I reckon. Okay. Brian saying clear labels for uh, the cut comb honey only. Mr. Dan Weaver saying all glass all the time. I made a mistake offering $1 return for returned glass pints. We kind of had that with one lady. She said, well, if I bring y'all back a glass, if I bring you back a pint jar, can I just switch out the pint jar and it'd be a little bit cheaper? And we're like, we'll knock $1 or $2 off of it, but I can't get it down to, $5 for a pint jar by any means. It'll be pretty much the cost of a jar and go from there. But you will have some folks try to booger you on things like that. James is saying $35, my top market price. Cat without the hat. I want to build a farm stand out front at some point. Well, there you go. There's several folks out there that's got the. I don't know what kind of area you live in. Unfortunately, pretty well don't matter where you at nowadays. You got clowns running around that won't do the honor system as it should be honored, but there's many folks out there that are still just good, honest folks. And if you have a little stand out, you go sit out and sell your honey, or do something like JW does. And JW's just got a stand out there in his yard, and it's the honor system. X amount of dollars for a pound or pint, quart, whatever you want, and you leave your money in the jar, jug, whatever you have sitting out there. But unfortunately, you do have the sorry jokers out there that just soon steal from you than do what they're supposed to do and do right by you. All right, let's see. Dan Weaver said, I get 5 jars every Sabbath morning. I done missed something with Philip there. I had to go back and look on his comment. All right, just his other comment there. So Philip saying most of my jars are more than $1. So just have to tell folks, look, hey, these things are costing $1.50, $2 a piece now. And ain't like it was 5 years ago. I could give you a little bit of break or cut. Hopefully to get there soon, but with the see how I can put this, with the mysterious dial that had this happen this year, that nobody still has answers for, that I know of, besides it was a virus or the M's. But me and mine, there's probably more to it than that. But with all that being said, many folks, especially these commercial guys and a lot of sideliner people, they're down 60, 70, 80% on colonies. So when it comes to trying to get that honey crop of what you would normally get, even on we'll say a slacked year, it's going to cause a rise in the cost of the honey in those areas, just for the simple fact of a lot of people ain't going to be able to get the colonies up in time to have the amounts that they typically would, or if they've been blessed enough to where, you kind of got a Bob Benny situation and you got a few barrels stuck back somewhere here or there to get you through the season as far as honey wise and allow you time to grow your colonies and get those bees up and running for the next year coming in for as a actual honey flow and getting something off of it. Let's see here. Dan Weaver. Just a time sink, Philip. I do now just give them a free pint for every 10 jars. That's a good selling point. I could do that. If you're a steady enough customer with me to where you're buying at least that many in a week or two, yeah, every 10 jars, I'd be happy to give you a jar. You draw them right on back in. Oh man, if I buy 10, he'll give me one free. Absolutely, I will. Good selling point. Uh, Cat without the hat. The only one that I may know, and I don't know if he's still in here or not. And there may be some others that has one of them laser machines where to burn it into a piece of wood or whatever you got. I know old Bob Walker, Walker Bee Ranch. He may. I can't speak for him that he will, but if he's still in here, maybe he'll chime in. But uh, if you can send a design or something like that to him, he could probably help you. But if there's anybody else out there that does that engraving, put an email in here for him to get a hold to you, and maybe y'all can come up with something. And one of you make a little bit of cash, and they'll be able to get them a good looking sign to put out there in the yard for what they're looking for. Uh, where's Bob at? Close to Charlotte, North Carolina, I think it is. Hope you're on the way. And if you're that close to him, then perhaps it'll work out. But if not, I imagine we can find you somebody. Uh, if you can't get with him, talk with or look on Etsy. And if you're married, then there's a good chance you or got a girlfriend, something. There's a good chance your woman's got the Etsy account somewhere. And women love that thing for whatever reason. But check out Matt's Engraving or Matt and Sarah's Engraving. But I'm pretty sure he just got it as Matt's Engraving now. And I know he does hive tools and all kind of different stuff on the engraving end. And there's a good chance or Matt could probably get you hooked up on something as well. And we buy from him often. I highly suggest if somebody's looking for a hive tool or anything like that, beekeeper related, and you want your name or whatever on the hive tool, that Matt does good quality work. Yeah. Well, there you go. If you got a router, just build you something out there. But if not, holler at us again, Cat without the hat, and if you can't get a hold of him, I'll get you Matt's info and get you sent over there to him. And there's a good chance old Matt get you fixed up for sure. Okay, Columbia, South Carolina. There we go. I'm terrible about where everybody's from still. I need to do like old Charlie and just write down. That way I can have everybody from wherever they're from, because they'll tell us 100 different times that, we're from such and such area or state, and then I'll think they're somewhere else. Let me get back to some of these comments real quick. Let's see, back up here, old Philip. Philip said, I order 20% more lids than jars. Run the return jar lid through the dishwasher. No time lost there. Well, there you go. That's a good idea too, Cat with a Hat. Just anybody out there new, which, watch people in your area. That way you can keep up with things on what floral is about to turn on, what your flow is. Especially if you're a first year or two beekeeper, I highly suggest that, finding somebody on YouTube that, pretty well an established beekeeper for the most part, but you can trust that when they say something, that's what it is, and you're not fumbling around because somebody done led you into a wrong direction. But that's a good thing that you're doing that, because that's what we did in our first couple of years, was watching people down here and listening to what to look for, what trees to start, what would start our seasons out, and this and that. And like I was talking to Lee the other day, I said, brother, I said, before we got into this beekeeping, the only tree I look for in springtime to see blooming will be like a dogwood. And that's pretty well it. I mean, don't get me wrong, you see everything, the flowers and everything else blooming, but that's all I would look for in nature to see what was blooming. But since we gotten into this beekeeping business, we're going down the road. I'm looking at privet. I'm looking at aster. I'm looking at the tallow. I'm looking at. We was talking China berries going all over the place this year. Pretty much whatever's in your area. That's what we started tuning into more to see. Okay, this is blooming now, and kind of keep up with it throughout the years. But it is a good idea to start picking up on knowing what some of your floral and your flows are going to be in your area. Let's see. Philip says, I don't reuse the lid, just the jars. DC, 100% real good to try to find any local videos. Helps a lot on the bloom cycle and beekeeping timing. Yes, sir, indeed. Uh, that's right, DC. He said, since I've become a beekeeper, all I see is yes, bee food, or no, not bee food. You were right. Good. I mean, I hadn't got crazy with it, but if we pull up somewhere, I'm looking to see what is around, whether we go 2 miles down the road or 20 miles down the road, whatever our destination is, or if we're driving along the highway and there's something blooming, sure enough, it catches the eye. I'm going, okay, all right, that's what that is. And it'll be a week or two before it'll be up the house, but uh, never thought I would be diving so deep into figuring out the actual nectar and pollen workings of many of the trees and plants that we have around. No, that's it. Never look at one the same again. Now what I do a lot of times is I look and I go, where's the bees at? Especially whenever everybody knows you start getting into that season starts cranking up like it's doing now, and you start seeing that white clover pop up out there in the yard or along the side of the highway. You're like, it's fixing to be on, and it ain't gonna be long. And then you start seeing them blackberries jumping about, then the red buds, everything else starts opening on up out of that. Yeah, Bubba, it's time. See, our cat and hat said, I'm a month in now. Just enjoy it, brother. That's the main thing. Enjoy the beekeeping thing. It's wonderful to grow and to be able to get a good sized yard. And if you're wanting to be somebody kind of like, say, Nathan at Duck River, that man is he's trying to make a business out of things. And it's cool that he's documenting everything he's doing. That way he can go back and say, okay, this happened at such and such time of the year and things like that. But if you really want to try to make it a business, at the same time, still enjoy the beekeeping end. Don't let the business part is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but it's the beekeeping portion of it that makes it the beekeeping. Being out there and enjoying what you're doing versus it turning into a job and you have to go out there and do it then. To me, that just kind of defeats the purpose of enjoying the bees and actually doing beekeeping work. I'd have never imagined that Hannah and I would ever become beekeepers. I chirped about it for a long time before we ever made the actual cross the threshold to get bees, but it it's been a good thing. We've enjoyed it. We've gotten a lot out of it. Uh-oh. We're on the M somewhere. Let me get back in here. I seen Philip. Cat. Planted lots of those clover and only seen very, very little small high beetle and varroa. Is it because they are full of oxalic acid? Also put rosemary and lavender near the entrance and a drop of tree oil around. Uh, with them smaller hive beetles, we'll talk about them things on this channel. Cat without the hat, this has really helped us. And it's something you can try. And if it don't work, then you can look into other avenues, if you will. But we add the peppermint extract and just a little bit, 0.5 milligrams of eucalyptus oil into a 2-ounce bottle of peppermint extract. And we shake that up real good. And we apply that every 7 to 9 days. We usually try to keep it, if we do it on a Saturday, we try to go back out the next Saturday and do it again. And that has helped a huge number on the smaller hive beetle load. Now, without making too much of a fuss on the M's, the mites, I'll say it tonight, but if you go into the National Library of Medicine, there's a huge chart of different essential oils that they use to either unalive 90% or more of the varroa mite, but there's several different essential oils in there that does it. One of them is peppermint, on top of, a lot of people use thymol and this and that, but peppermint is up there on the high list between thymol and everybody else. But the idea on the peppermint and the M's is feeding them the peppermint candy and allowing the bees to ingest that. And from the readings, that if the bees can get either in contact without too much of the essential oil or ingest it, that knocks down a huge number of the varroa mite. But anybody out there, you want to look at it, it is on the National Library of Medicine, and there's a huge chart, and it gives you the full run on it. And then if you want to get further research into it, you can check out Dr. Armine, I believe his name is, and he is from West Virginia University. And this man, all he done is study parasites. That's all that was his whole business. And whenever the varroa mite started coming in here, what was it, the late 80s, early 90s, whenever it was, they started discovering the varroa mite over here. He jumped on full throttle and says, I'm going to try to figure out a way to unalive these things in a natural form. And a lot of people have adopted his way of doing it, but he gives a full description on how they took care of them. Because in the long run, he's seen that these essential oils worked, and they applied them into lard and placed that into the colonies with a couple different essential oils. There was, I think it was wintergreen and peppermint, and there was something else in there. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but reading his findings. Well, he's seen such good results up there in West Virginia that one of the colleges down in Florida, and I believe it was Florida State, I could be wrong, but it was a college down there in Florida, got a hold of him and said, look, come down here and show us what you're doing to unalive these imps. So he said, yeah, I'll help you. So he went on down there, and they done this for 2 or 3 years at that university in Florida. And the results that he had over a 90% unalive rate by just using lard and a couple essential oils. That's it. The science is there. The man lays it all out for everybody to understand and read. Even some dude from South Alabama down here that I'm not an educated man, but I can understand what the man is putting into his language. And it blew my mind. But it's all in how you want to do things in your yard. Well, brother, if there's a crash course, you come to the right place for some crash courses, because we'll derail and fall apart, but folks will lead you in the right direction. Any of the chat, whether it's our chat or you jump on with somebody else throughout the week. There's some very well educated beekeepers in here that can help anybody. Just say some folks that aren't in the chat. People get you on the right track of what you need to do. And there's enough of them in here. If they say somebody says something wrong, you can guarantee somebody's going to come in and tell you, no, that's wrong. This is what you need to do instead of that. But that's the whole point, is to learn from one another, figure out what works for you in your yard. That way you can maintain as a good beekeeper. That's the whole goal in the long run. The animal husbandry, let's just keep these little girls going as best we can, and we'll be all right. Oh yeah, there's some good folks in this bunch. And we give each other a hard time, and that's what I like about it. Cutting up, carrying on with a whole bunch of y'all that just, y'all like to have a good time. That's why I tell Hannah, I got to talk to my friends tonight. whenever. Or I can't wait to talk to my friends. That's it, DC. We don't sugarcoat. Beekeeping can be hard. Indeed, it can be physically and mentally. And it takes work, but it's very rewarding. Absolutely, DC. Not only the reward of, you get the benefits of getting some honey from the bees, and this and that, but having productive colonies and having good numbers and being able to maintain those numbers. That way you have good, healthy colonies and you're not worrying about pests or viruses and things like that. You're able to manage what you have and keep it at bay. Will we ever be to a point of it'll be like the old days of where you had to worry about one or two things back in the old days before 1980? Am I right, y'all? That the high beetle come in the 80s and the aurora come in the 90s, I believe. But pre those times, for the most part, all you had was a wax moth to contend with. Your foul broods, don't get me wrong, your American and European foul broods you had to contend with. But as far as just actual pests, from what I've read, it was the wax moth and there was a little bitty fly. And I don't think these little bitty flies have gone away just because the high beetles and the M's have gotten here. But I don't think they're just looked at the way they were back then. But there used to be a little fly that would get in there and they would lay their eggs and they pupate in the colonies, then create a little bit of havoc up inside that colony if you got too many in there. But Lord willing, one day we'll get to the point of where all these pests are gone. But will it happen in my generation? I don't think so. Hopefully it does, but I just really don't. To be honest, I don't see it in our generation and deal. Uh-oh. Todd's dealing with the A's again. Is he getting rained out there? I ain't been able to get on too many people's videos this last week, but hopefully the rain ain't driving them jokers up to put him in a bind this year. We got to figure out a good way to help him on that as well. I know them sugar ants, they can be something to contend with as well, especially whenever you go to getting a bunch of rain and all that, and it goes pushing them up. And then they want to get into every single box you got. And then you fighting off them little girls until it dries up a little bit. Now, let me write this down. Y'all bear with me a sec. I jot this down. I'll tell y'all in a second. But before I derailed in my brain, I know California does not allow fire ants, but we have had multiple beekeepers around here tell us, look, I know it sounds crazy, but if you want to keep them sugar ants out of your bees, you need to put fire ants around. And we've had folks from old timers that's been doing this 50 plus years. That's a commercial beekeeper down here, and just talking to, we'll say, sideliners and people on down the line there. But multiple have told us, that, look, put them fire ants around them colonies, they'll run them sugar ants off. Because you ain't got to worry about fire ants. Fire ants ain't really, they're not studying coming into the sweet sugar. Fire ants is more of a, we got to put meat on the table, if you will. I'm not worried about a little bit of sugar. We gotta put a prime rib in the house so they're not looking into going inside bee colonies nowhere near what sugar ants are. Yeah, that's what we've been told by the old timers DC, so that the fire ants are just unalive the sugar ants and you're done with them. But down here we have them all over the place. I mean, you can't take 10 steps without looking around somewhere and seeing fire ants, and especially this time of the year, and we're getting these rains coming in, buddy. You look along that highway, and what would I say, every 150, 200 feet you go, there's going to be 5 or 6 dozen of fire ant hills just popped up on both sides of the highway. All you'll see is red clay and just mounds the whole time you're traveling down the roads. But for Todd's sake, we can't send him no fire ants because California does not love the fire ant as much as we do down here. So we got to find him another remedy to help him out on them little heifers. Uh-oh. All right. So fire ants don't survive north of the Mason-Dixon. All right, Carl. Y'all take care, brother. Good seeing y'all, and y'all have a blessed week. Okay. Y'all tell me if y'all have heard this before. And we're getting off the ants for a few minutes. But once again, talking to one of the old timers we've been working for. And he was not a beekeeper, but he knew many of the beekeepers in this area. And he was telling us the other day, he said, Tim, man, I had a couple swarms around the house and I called old so-and-so and he come out and got these bees for me every year. And he said, all that man would do would just, he brought him a spray bottle and he had it loaded down with sugar water in it, and he would just spray them bees. And then once he sprayed them, he'd just give them one good hard shake and shake them bees down into a cardboard box and just cover them up. And I was like, well, yes, sir, I've heard it. That's how a lot of folks do it. Keep them all clustered together and just one good clump, and they'll stay down in there and get everybody cleaned up because they got sugar water all over themselves and not studying flying off. And he said, one thing that I didn't know that this fella taught me. Now, y'all tell me how many of y'all honestly, have known about this and have tried it. But he said after he shook them bees off that limb, he told me, he said that he called it the queen's smell, but he said, but the queen's pheromone stays on that tree. And I was like, yes, sir. I said, fella's right on that. And he said, well, what he'd do is he would get deep woods off, like you would spray for mosquitoes. And he said to keep any bees going back to that limb that got in the air by chance. He said he'd spray that limb or whatever they landed on with the deep woods off. And he said that off killed the smell of that pheromone immediately. And it drove the bees down into, whether he brought a box or, had a cardboard box sitting there on the ground, whatever the man had at the time. But I thought that was pretty interesting. I was like, well, that's good. That's a good way to kill out that pheromone to keep them from going back to that one particular spot. And you constantly having to go out over there and shake them off or this and that. Shake what you can, try to get everybody off, and just hit it with that deep woods off. And all they're going to concentrate on is finding that queen's pheromone in that box or whatever you got her in. But I thought that was pretty interesting, him telling me about that the other day. Well, I'm going to keep that in my brain so next time we get on one, I'll just try it out, see about it. I imagine the man he's talking about been keeping bees for 30 or 40 years, so I'm gonna say the man knows what he's talking about on that end of things. But we'll try that, see how it goes. No, they can't use nothing out there in California. Everything has got to be passed or make sure it don't do this or that, so on and so forth. I'm like, ain't no way I can live out there. No way. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that either. Start charging you to breathe out there. Ain't it pretty good people that live in that state? There's some good folks that have to deal with a bunch of that Mickey Mouse road show that goes on. I don't know if I don't know if there's any places in California that just says, "Hey, Tim, let's go visit right there." Now, I imagine there's some beautiful country up there. Don't get me wrong, but I've never thought of going. Yeah, I'd like to go out to California and check out the whatever they got out there. Now, up where DC is, Wyoming, the Plains, uh, Pennsylvania area, and down, you start getting into to the Appalachians and places like that. Yeah, I'd love to see those neck of the woods, but there's just not a driving bone in my body that says, let's go to California. Nothing against California, like I said, but it's just too much hustle and bustle for this one. They said he'll go to climb El Capitan. Now, like I said, there's probably some beautiful country. I mean, you see on the nature shows and this and that, there's some beautiful country up in there, but it's just more of the people. I'm not one of these dudes that, for the most part, I come on this beach at and we'll chit chat, but I'm not a real big. Neither is Hannah. We're not big crowd people or uh that kind of thing, which kind of ironic considering we get on this YouTube and chit chat back and forth with folks. But I guess we're not around the cities and the hustle and bustle because we're down here. We're just north of Mobile, and even going to Mobile for us, and Mobile is not a big city compared to what you have in California and New York and say Atlanta, places like that. Just going down to Mobile, I'll just say it's hell on earth for this one. Having to do that. Leave me in the woods. I'm fine. Believe there's probably plenty of places for you to climb out there. Oh, there's some fine folks down here. In the South period, there's some wonderful people down here. They're gonna treat you like family and you're gonna get fed before you leave. Especially if you're a visitor, one way or another. And the best thing to do is find I'll just say my woman is a fine cook and she has learned from some of the best. And if you can find somebody that can cook good, and most of the people down here, men or women for the most part, buddy, they can put a meal together and feed you good. It does get pretty warm down here, DC. I'm not going to deny that, but it gets warm, especially July and August. That's it. There's too much concrete in the cities today. Baton Rouge is a challenge for sure. I like to stay out far enough to smell honeysuckle. That's it. Yeah, get me out in them woods. I can see nature and smell the good side of nature, not what Jasper over here would be passing off. Thank goodness he didn't do that to us this run so far. He ran us out last week, as many of y'all knew. But the good smells of nature, absolutely. Put us out there in it. And there's a lot of people now. I like to smell a privet. When that privet starts blooming, that privet smells good, but there's a lot of people that say they can't handle that privet because it's just too heavy of a smell. And it does have quite the perfumey smell to it. But best way I can describe it is if you've ever smelt a sweet olive tree or bush, uh, it's like a sweet olive times two. The best way I can explain privet whenever it really starts rocking and rolling. All right, we're talking about this honeysuckle a second. This is on one of our older videos. I think it's you have to go back a year or two to find this one. But some people will give you the argument honeybees can't get them honeysuckles and get that nectar out of there because it's just their proboscis or their proboscis, however you want to say it, propolis. Can't get down in there to the bottom of that flower because it's so deep. Now, how many seen them bees chewing on the side of that honeysuckle down at the base of it to get in there and get to the honeysuckle? We've seen them. On the yellow, we got white, yellow that just grow all over the place. Then about 3 or 4 years ago, Hannah and I bought a red honeysuckle, and we planted them in the yard and put them on kind of like a trellis. And it was getting kind of almost into a dearth between the privet and the tallow. You have that little bit of a lull, and we got to walking around the yard out there one day and noticing out there when the red honeysuckle bees flying around it. Like, let's see what these little girls are doing. Lo and behold, what they're doing is they was going to the base of that honeysuckle and chewing out just enough where they can make them a little hole and draw that nectar out of the bottom of that honeysuckle. Thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, we got a video on it back there a year or two ago, but actually seeing them get into that honeysuckle is pretty neat. Yes, DC. Mr. Russell Amon, God love him. And I know there's several others out there that have extended an olive branch, if you will, for us to help us get back on our feet with getting our numbers built up around here. And speaking to Mr. Russell Amon earlier this week, and he said, look, he said, I got a couple colonies over here. He said, they're new swarms that I got this year. One is in a 5-frame nuke, and I think he said, no. One is in a double 5-frame, and the other one is it's in a 10 frame deep, if I remember right. But he said, just holler at me whenever y'all ready. Y'all mosey on over here, and we'll get y'all a couple colonies set up free of charge. So, Mr. Russell, we sure appreciate that, because we was really counting on swarms this year to get us built back up. But uh, unfortunately, the swarms have not really been happening yet in this area. And I know we've beaten a dead horse on things, but we've got our names out there in our county and in the neighboring county, as far as all the law enforcement, that if somebody gets a 911 call or a non-emergency call, we go over there and get a swarm. But the phone ain't even so much run. But yeah, we're gonna take a trip over to South Mississippi. If everything goes good, we're gonna try to go next week, because I think we're about maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Mr. Russell over that way. It's not too terribly far. I believe it's going to be about the same distance from us driving from here to Gulf Shores or something like that. I know it's a wonderful thing, DC, that there's so many folks out there willing to help and make sure people get back on their feet, whether helping them out with bees and things like that. But if it's close, then yeah, I'll take you up on the offer this year. Laura willing, sometime that we get back on our feet, then there may be somebody in this chat that ain't too terribly far from us, and we can just return the favor to somebody else and do like Mr. Russell said, hey, bring your own equipment. That way we just transfer it over into yours, and everything is well and done. So we're very much grateful for uh, people reaching out to us, like Mr. Mike Conley. Mr. Mike Conley, he's up there in uh, North Alabama at Lake Gunther'sville. But for us, that's like a 5.5 hour ride just one way. And we get some slack time just to mosey up there. I'd love to go visit and talk with him, but it's kind of difficult right now to make an 18-hour day or so going to get bees and turning around and coming back home. Because for us, we got so much here at the house between the animals and everything else. There's no way we could spend a night somewhere and then get up and go, especially with these 10 puppies Jasper and Stella have put into our lives. DC, if you move to Louisiana, it's not quite as hot in Louisiana like it is in Alabama. So that's one of the benefits. I'm pulling your leg on that. Ooh, I don't doubt that. A lot of people, I guess we'll derail a minute. We already kind of knew it's 2 hours into things. No wonder folks are dropping out. I thought I had another hour to go. That's it. But not only taxes, a whole bunch of people would derail if we passed 2 hours. But I'm hearing a lot of folks talk about even insurance, like homeowners insurance. Here, it's just going out the daggum roof for your yearly payment on that. Some folks it says it's going up even like $1,500 to $2,000 for the year on homeowners insurance. They done lost their mind. Yeah, Brian, Barnhill there says it there did. Yeah, just about everybody I talked to, on top of us and stuff with insurance, it's you know, I'm just about to the point of I'm better off just saving my money, and God forbid something happens, I can just pay for it that way. But that's in a perfect world. Unfortunately, that's where they get us. But let me get on to Lee. Yeah, Lee's still in here. I was telling Lee this story a minute ago. We'll get back on the crawfish for a few minutes. We'll talk supper. Uh, Lee, and what y'all have? 200 pounds of crawfish, Lee? Or was it 250 pounds of crawfish y'all had today? Or boiled up? Now, we only got 7 pounds of crawfish from the local filling station down the road. Fresh crawfish from Slidell, Louisiana. They cook. Well, they bring them live over here and they cook them every weekend at one of the gas stations. And they're good too. Now, I tell you, good. But 5 big sacks. So you're looking probably about, yeah, easily 200, 250 pounds of crawfish they done today. Lee in Louisiana. But not too long ago, we stopped there to get us some lunch. And it wasn't crawfish that day, but it was after church. We pulled up, got us a little bit of lunch. And whenever you leave out, you can drive around behind the building and come around, then exit to the highway that way. Well, this particular day, we did just that. We drove around to the back of the building, and Vietnamese couple owns the little old filling station. And buddy, let me tell you what, they got some good food in there. And I know we've been through this one time, but I got to admit, that woman and her mama can cook some food. Well, oftentimes the mother or mother-in-law, she's in the back there boiling them crawfish. Well, whenever we pulled around back, and I was pointing out to Hannah, I said, "There's them big old boilers back there. They boil them crawfish in." I said, "Let me tell you how they do that." I said, "They got a little old bat, I think about 5 or 6 inches long." And I said, "That Vietnamese woman will take that little bat, and every single crawfish, she'll pick it up, boom, knock it in the head, make sure it's unconscious, throws it over in the barrel. Same thing. She does that all day long, knocking them crawfish in the head with that little bitty baseball bat. Boom, boom. Well, she didn't buy into what I was telling. She told me, she said, "You so full of crap, your eyes are brown." And I went to smirking. I was like, "Yeah, you right." But I told that same story to a brother from church. This man is 67 years old. I told him the same thing. I said, "Ray," I said, "you ain't gonna believe this." I said, "But that woman back there behind Rockies," I said, "she's hitting them crawfish in the head with that little baseball bat and dumping them over in that bowl." And I said, "I just understand it from what I've heard is whenever they're knocked unconscious but not unalived, that they cook better. And that's how the Vietnamese culture does it. They have," he said, I said, "the whole culture, everybody has a little bitty miniature baseball bats when they're cooking crawfish." And he's like, "Man, I had no idea about that." Whenever I seen his eyes get like that big around, I knew I had him hook, line, and sinker. I can say this because I know the man's not watching, but to this day, he still believes that story about woman back there knocking them crawfish in the head with that little baseball bat. But uh, hey, Damien, them crawfish are go, bud, this time of year, and y'all know that. South Louisiana, South Mississippi, South Alabama. some portions of South Florida, you can get on some crawfish, but they have theirs brought in from somewhere over in Slidell area. They'll bring them in live here, and then they'll cook them, and you can get whatever you want. If you want an ice chest full of them babies, or if you just want a pound or two, don't matter to them. Well, look, I ain't believing he took it hook, line, and sinker any way, but I wasn't coming off of, look, I'm feeling you with a bunch of filler on a mess on these crawfish. So I'm going to carry on with it. Lee told me, he said, you should have recorded that. Well, I said, next time I get around him and I get that story in somewhere, I said, I'll try to record the reaction of him. Hey, come on, it's oyster season too. Come on and get your oysters. When Mr. Russell and them was down here in, where we at, May, I think I'm down here, what, March or April, I think it was. When did it snow? Whenever it snowed, that's whenever they was down here. And Bubba, they bringing in the fresh oysters. I had me half a dozen of them babies fried up. They good. Oh, she does. I'll tell her all kind of tales like that. And there's some of them I've got her on. Don't get me wrong, but I guess the longer we're in this life and marriage, 15 years running one another, she's pretty well figured out. You just giving me a tall tale there, Mr. Blake. But, well, yeah, I think I'm going to cut it here. It's been a good chat. I never thought I'd have made it 2 hours and 23 minutes according to the clock up there. But once again, I just kind of repeat, anybody that you can, if you're able to, if you can go support Stephanie in any kind of way, Lee's cousin, with the GoFundMe, that'd be a blessing to that family right now. Every little bit of help will help them keep the lights on and keep some food on the table until work picks up for her husband. And once again, for all you prayer warriors out there praying for everybody on the list, we do appreciate you, and we thank y'all for praying for us on things as well, because we need it here in our life also. But once again, y'all have a fine week, and God bless you. Lord willing, we'll see y'all on the next one. Y'all take care of y'all.
Well, guess that's it for today. See you next time at Gunline Bees.